All right, so we're here to do our final Socratic discussion for our English 3 class, and we're going to be talking about what we've learned throughout the entire semester. So why don't we start with what we feel is the significance of literature and American literature in particular. Riley, what did you have for your claim?
I said that literature has much significance. It enlightens us, opens our eyes to new things, and makes us appreciate other cultures. And then I said American literature teaches us about the past, life lessons, and understanding society. So
I agree with that. Like, I put American literature gives people the knowledge of American history and allows them to have a glimpse into the past and stuff.
I agree with your guys' statements because we can learn from what we came from.
Yeah, I talked about how it talks about our past and also our present because American literature is still being developed today, and how if we look back at the past, then we can see how history repeats itself with kind of the same themes going along. So if we know the past, then we are less likely to repeat it in the future.
Does anybody have anything different?
John, do you have anything to say?
Well, I have it like it's an accurate record of what people before us have made, and then what they're continuing to make is basically a timeline for our history, how it's changed and what has repeated.
So we all mutually agree that literature shows history and it continues to bring us to our present. So the next thing that we can talk about is how do you feel that you grew as an overall reader? Nash, would you like to talk about how you grew?
Well, I actually read more. Usually I just don't read it at all. I can try and guess my way through, but I actually read The Call of the Wild. And I did good on my papers, so it helped a lot.
Olivia?
I definitely branched out and chose different books that I normally would not normally choose. That's what I said, because the end of semester reading, I read The Critical. I would have never picked it out in real life. I feel like it really exposed me different styles of writing that I normally would not.
Tori, did you like The Color Purple? Was it something that you thought you weren't going to enjoy but sucked it up and read?
Liked it. It was disgusting. So it was, yeah. I don't know.
That's kind of how my book was. I read The Glass Castle, and it's a really good story, but I've never read a memoir before, so it was so hard to write my analysis. But I think it helped me learn how to analyze text more, so I can do it in college and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot more after doing that assignment because, like Tori said, I would have never read my book. It would have never caught my eye, but after I read it,
And I think it helped to do peer reviews because then we read more on what other authors were doing, and also I didn't have to read the other books, but I still kind of got a general idea of what went on in those books. And kind of like all of you said, they weren't books that we ever would have picked off of a shelf to read for fun. So
I think it was a good project, especially for writing, which is kind of our next question. I've never written a literary analysis before, so I started and I had no idea what we were supposed to write about. Was it a summary? And then you said it wasn't a summary, and so I was like, well, what are we supposed to put in it? So kind of reading that led into growing as a writer and doing new things and stuff like that.
yeah, I think I completely transformed into a new writer after this year. Just everything we did, Miss Harvey would assign us outlines, and when we first started doing that, I was like, I am not doing an outline. I'm just gonna write my paper. No offense. And then I've always had trouble organizing my thoughts and my ideas, and then after doing the outlines, it just helps. And then you just put it into your rough draft, and it's oh, it's right there. I didn't have to go through all these steps to
So
try to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with Riley. Like, I've never done an outline, and I think they're quite ridiculous. But after this class, after filling them out, it helped me write my paper a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've never done it before either, and I don't know. I feel like this method like really worked for me. Like I found my method for writing a paper that works for me.
it's so nice, and it helps you like organize all your thoughts, especially for research papers, like that one we did about.
The influential American.
Yes.
Yeah. You have so much information, you have to like break it down. It helps.
Yeah, you see, that's where, like, I think it's kind of different for me. Whereas I grew up always having to make outlines. Like, since 7th grade, we always had to do outlines for all of our papers. And, like, our version of outlines are very different than your versions. Like, we just put, like, oh, this is an introduction. Like, this is our thesis. And then we'd be like, this is the topic of the next paragraph and body paragraphs. And then, okay, this is how we're going to conclude. But it wasn't, like, line by line, sentence by sentence, basically writing your rough draft in your outline. So that was a hard adjustment for me because I was like, this isn't what I have always been taught is an outline. But it did make my rough draft a lot easier because our outline and rough draft were always two completely different steps, whereas here I felt like they were one, like, easy, cohesive step.
I found out I wasn't a bad writer. Because like before, I always like put stuff together and it's like, this should work. Okay, but this time I like actually tried because like I needed a good grade. So yeah.
Sometimes
Motivation.
It's fun to try. It's fun.
Devin, what about you?
I feel that I grew as a reader by learning how to manage my time while reading a book. I also grew by learning how to comprehend what I read.
Nice.
We're not on that question.
For writing.
It's all right. That was really good input for the reading one. Now, what about writing? So you learned how to time manage with writing. Did you also learn to time manage with reading?
Yes.
Whoa.
I learned how to manage my time with writing and become a better writer, I think.
So Sydney, what was your favorite writing assignment that we got this year?
Probably, well, I like doing like the random like quick writes after like the 20-30 minute ones because they were like they didn't have to be perfect, but you had like time to come up with an idea based on a topic, and then they were just pretty fun for me.
I am the exact opposite. I hated those writings.
Same here.
I couldn't deal with not like completely thinking everything through and then putting it on the page as one complete thought. And maybe that's bad because I'm an improv, but I did not like that there wasn't like enough time to go through and make sure that everything was everything to my best ability, because it felt like in 20 to 30 minutes I gave half of what I could have if I had been given more time. So
See,
I agree with what Emma said, but it also taught me to, I can think of stuff last minute and still write a decent paper.
going off of what you said, like first quarter, I would just sit there looking at my literacy journal like, what am I gonna write? What is gonna come to my brain that I'm just gonna write on the screen? And then like the first one we did second quarter, it was the Abe Lincoln one, and my thoughts were just coming in, and I actually didn't have it done, so I had to go out in my car and like type it really quick on my phone. And I was like, they're just coming in, and that's like, I just started letting my ideas flow, because those are the writings where whatever's in your brain, you just put it on your paper, I guess. Like, you don't have to go through the actual steps. You just let it out.
And that's where I agree with Cindy, where these are my favorites because I can just write like whatever I'm thinking. Like it doesn't have to come out perfect or even like make complete sense. It's just whatever ideas are flowing at the time.
I like how we did that because like at the beginning, like the first quarter, my attitude about writing and going through the long writing process and doing all these steps was so bad, and it was just like, I don't want to do this, I just want to write. But then like my papers were garbage. And so then I was like, we did those quick writes, and they were really fun because I just like spewed out all my thoughts and put them down on paper. And so then my attitude changed and kind of my learning process, those skills changed, and then I had a better attitude and I liked writing and I produced better work, and so got a better grade. But yeah.
quick writes are like drills on the basketball court, and the whole writing of the essay is kind of like the game.
Yeah.
So they go together.
I think they definitely like get your brain working in a different sense than you would normally working.
Nash, what was your favorite thing to write?
I don't know. I kind of like the longer ones more, honestly, because I'm not very good at thinking of things on the spot. And I feel like I had more ideas if I could think about it for longer, kind of better ways to write it. Yeah.
What about you, John?
I prefer the longer ones too. It gives you more time to think about it and like, organize it so it makes sense instead of kind of just a big jumble of words.
Yeah, so we're pretty split evenly on the topic of what kind of writing we enjoyed, but I think that we all grew in the area that we were less comfortable with because we were forced to do it more than we ever would have outside of class. So I think that was good for all of us individually to see that there were different styles of writing and what did and didn't work for us. So what about our speaking and listening skills? Riley.
Oh, I said that it varied from week to week because, there's days when you come to school and you're just like, I don't want to be here. And so you're not going to talk a lot or you're going to talk a lot and be like bouncing off the walls because you're just like, I'm going to make the teacher's life chaotic and okay.
Riley, have you ever been the first option?
Okay, anyway. But, yeah, and then the listening skills, when you're not in the mood for school, you kind of just space off. And so there were days when Miss Hartwig would be up at the board and I'd just be staring off into space, but probably would have wished I was paying attention. So then when we started writing, I would know what I was doing. What about you guys?
I didn't speak through first quarter. It was a big class. It's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I came into this one. It's like, I talked more. Listening is like, if I wanted to be there, I will listen. If I didn't, I wouldn't. So I was confused sometimes what we were doing.
I always tried to listen enough to where I knew what we were doing, but I didn't have to pay full attention. I could still space off. But I like these Socratic discussions because speaking and listening and hearing everybody's ideas, sharing yours, I think they help a lot, especially going into college and going into the working world where you have to do presentations and discussions like this and stuff. I think that it's very helpful to have a background knowledge of what it actually is like.
You're going to use these skills in everyday life for the rest of your life. So.
Yeah, I think Charlotte and I came to this class with relatively the same attitude.
Yeah.
Pay attention enough to know,
But not too much.
But don't be completely there. All right. Devin, what about your speaking or listening skills? Have you seen any growth between the Socratic discussions?
I feel that I grew in my listening skills by beginning to listen and pay attention to what people are sharing. When I speak, I'm getting better at looking at my audience and not moving around in a stand.
That's good. Sydney, what about you?
I feel like through being in class, obviously I'm a quiet person, but I have talked more in this class than I have first quarter, just because of size and because I know a bunch of you better. And then also feel through listening, we would be listening on the board to a story, and then you'd have to write your notes. So I think I've become a better listener because I can write stuff and listen at the same time.
Yeah, better at multitasking.
I totally agree with you on the size. My first quarter class was a big class, and I don't know. I just feel so much more comfortable with less people. I don't know. I can say more.
So where in the real world can we use the skill of listening and writing notes at the same time?
Well, if you get a job, you should listen to your boss.
No, I'm going to do the complete opposite. As what?
College, when you're in lecture halls, it's going to be important to be able to retain the important information while the professor sits there and talks for 90 minutes.
Because a lot of the stuff like that they say is not in the notes, but that's on the test.
Yes.
So like you have to know it.
You have to listen and write.
Yeah, and I feel like college. I've never like taken a college class, obviously, so I don't know if they actually have like the PowerPoint. Like we're kind of used to being spoiled, I guess, in high school because the teachers have the PowerPoint. So if we're not listening, we can just write what's there and then just do something else. But in college, I mean, that's not really an option because it's not just going to be right in front of your face, and they're not just going to like send it to you. You know, like if you decide not to.
It really
Yes.
depends on the professor.
I agree.
I think it'll help in the working world too. Like if you at any business, just being able to discuss things with people and listen to what they have to say, see other people's points of views on different things. I think it'll help kind of broaden mindsets and stuff.
And being able to adjust to like where the conversation's going and being able to insert your own ideas or your own points of view will help a lot during meetings or just when you're working on like a group project especially. So some of us have already mentioned how our attitudes or our learning and thinking skills have changed throughout the semester. Sydney, would you like to talk about that question?
Through like in the class, I guess I've learned more about like organizing information kind of because I'm kind of one to just write something down and goes with it and then I get off topic. So I feel like through like this class I've learned to like create an outline, follow the outline, and then use what I put down to kind of guide me instead of getting off topic.
I agree with Sydney. I think I've learned to follow, very detailed instructions better in this class.
Me too. I've always done like a little bit of something here and then like a little bit of something there, but I feel like now I have like an order that I needed to follow in order to write like a little newspaper.
I'm gonna change from learning to thinking skills. Stop making fun of me. So my thinking skills, like the hot discussion questions that Mrs. Hartwig would have posted like during each unit, they would like really make you think about what we're learning. Because like otherwise you just kind of sit there and like, what's the point of this? But if you have the hot discussion question, then you're like, oh, this is why. Like you have to relate it back, you know?
So yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I never paid attention to those. But like I never really got how to take that question and like find it in the text at the same time we're reading it, at the same time I'm supposed to take notes, at the same time like trying to process through. But
Well, my attitude varied. It's like some days I'm like happy to be here, and, like I wanted to learn, and then by the end of the quarter, it's like, okay, let's get done. I'm tired of these quarters. I want a new start. And so,
Yeah, my attitude's like before this class, and sometimes it still happens, but I would go home and not want to do my homework. And I would be like, whatever. And like, I surprised myself last night because, not gonna lie, you might want to plug your ears, but usually when we had to like write a paper or do Socratic discussion prep sheets, I don't complete them. And then like, I come to class, I'm like, gotta write all this stuff down really quick. The last night I actually got it out and I thought about what I was putting down and I was like, okay, I can actually talk about this when it comes time to discuss, so I don't have to make things up as we're going along, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this class has taught me to discipline myself and actually do my homework.
My attitude in this class, I came in every day with kind of a bad attitude. I'm just like, I don't want to be here. But, I don't know. After like the corny jokes every morning, I don't know, that kind of made my day. They're just funny. They were really stupid, but they were really funny.
yeah.
That's just me.
I swear you were the only one who ever laughed.
My day.
because Jaden laughed, and then
Yeah. I was always like, this is first block. And so I'm usually hangry. I'm like a morning person, but then I get really just mean and I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. But then I was like, okay, no, like this is my first class. I have to start the day off right. We're doing writing, which is, I love to do that. So just coming in with a positive attitude instead of a negative one really kind of changes the whole class and like makes it more enjoyable.
I'm not a morning person, so I'm not happy until like third block. So
I get really
After you
Yeah.
lunch.
breakfast.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm a morning person, but I'm like a 6 a.m. morning person at weights
Yeah.
and like basketball practice, and then I eat breakfast and I come in here and I'm ready for a nap. So
Yeah.
especially
We
with
know, trust me.
with adjusting between like 40-minute classes to 80-minute classes, it was hard to like keep my attention span like where it probably should have been, just because I don't know, it felt really boring and really long for a really long time because it was just the same thing over and over and over again. And like you guys have 5 classes, I'm used to 9. Like it was just there was so much more variation and there was a tempo change every 40 minutes, whereas here it's just more of a drag, I guess, for me. But it got easier as the second quarter came on, but it was a real drag the first quarter.
On days when we would come in here and like we would read all block or like we would write, I'm just like, really, I don't want to do that. Like, I really like the days where we would like get up and go interact with other groups. It was fun to go interact with other people.
Yes, I loved when we
Do
got
this
to
and
draw
like
on our
with the
desks.
Play-Doh,
That
like
was the best.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever had a junior high or high school teacher that's let me play with Play-Doh in class. I mean, it was just fun.
but I feel like that really helped me learn too. Like I'm a very
Yeah.
hands-on learner, and so that really helped me like really understand like whatever we were talking about at the time.
A lot of it.
Like the reading all class and writing all class, because like if you space it off, you're not missing anything.
Yeah, I feel like the 80 minutes do really drag on, and like I don't know, it's nice not having so many classes, but then it's like you have so many classes, like you have that class for so long, and it's just like kind of overwhelming with information.
It's just so much information and like
It almost stresses you out. It's like an overload of information. It's like I don't remember any of this. Like,
same.
Like when you said like I don't remember any of this, like I mean I didn't remember a lot of stuff, but like it reassured me that I could come in here whenever I wanted, and I had a teacher that was willing to help me and willing to think down for me. I mean, and other people. So
It really helps to have a teacher that'll help with whatever you need, or like if you ever have questions, just to come in and ask, and boom, you got an answer.
Actually responds to your emails.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And I use the stuff that we do in this class in other classes. Like my online class, I was writing an essay at the same time we were doing our research essay. So I was doing 2 research essays at the same time, and I was like, this one's for my college class. Like, it has to be good. It has to be this way, fancy. And so I was like, okay, I can learn how to do that in this class and do it in that class. And so,
It's just so relatable. You'll use it everywhere.
yeah.
So, Devin, what do you think was your biggest area of growth? Like reading, writing, like just understanding American literature or speaking?
Probably reading and speaking, because I used to come in here with the attitude of not wanting to learn. This is stupid. I'm not going to use it. Then as time went on, I finally changed my attitude and got to where I had to pass this class. So just sometimes I just sit there in class when we're supposed to be writing and absolutely do nothing. But then I started actually writing, and as time went on.
I just put writing down here, but I actually grew a lot because, like, sometimes I don't pay attention, but most of the time I pay attention, and that's a new thing for me. Because, like, some classes you take can be boring days, and like, okay, I don't want to just sit here and listen to you talk. Like in this class, I actually paid attention, I actually learned something, and I actually didn't forget it the next day. So
And it's not like we were sitting in here just staring at the board. Like we were interacting with each other. Like we would do the readings and we take the selection test together, or we do the Play-Doh thing, or we get together in different groups and draw on our desks about the themes of our book. You know.
I like that it was just not a lecture. Like, a lot of teachers do lectures, and like sometimes those are okay if you need a lot of information at once and you're just whatever. But it just gets boring, and then I don't retain the information because I'm bored. So I like discussing things, and I like doing things with other people and actually interacting with the teacher and with students on what we're doing, and it helps.
Where you can be active in your own learning instead of just sitting there listening. I did 4 classes and just taught. So I didn't space off. Like in this class, I didn't space off as much as I usually do, but I still spaced off. But like the times I spaced off, I still listened to her and I still remember the things that she was important to remember.
You were there just enough.
Everything.
Nash, what about your areas of improvement?
Like I said earlier, I actually read books and stuff, and I did my homework outside of class to actually get it done. Usually I just kind of try and get it done during the class throughout it, but since it's the first block class, kind of had to do it. And I actually did pretty good, so I'm glad I did my homework.
Yeah, I ran into that situation too. Obviously, like
Sit in your
set,
car,
first
taking
quarter, like I had a third block, so if I didn't get something done, I had first and second block to find free time to do it. And then like having a first block, you're like, she's gonna expect you to have it done, so you better have it done, otherwise, like with our writing that we just did, the book one, literacy analysis. Yeah, I didn't finish my outline, so when she was going through this is another listening thing, but she was going through the punctuation for quotes. Yeah, I was over here trying to figure out my outline so I could start on my rough draft.
Sydney, your biggest area of growth.
I think I grew a lot, like, in figuring out ways to make my being faster at organizing my thoughts. Because when it comes to like starting writing, I normally take like 2 days, and then I'm there the last day trying to put something together. And so I think I figured with the outlines and with the stuff we got throughout the quarter, I wrote faster, come up with ideas faster.
I kind of feel the same way. Like, I definitely think that my essay writing skills in particular improved because, like, I like that we did more research, argumentative, essay-based writing instead of creative writing. Like, we did have, like, our personal narrative and stuff, and that was really fun because I like to write like that. But it helped a lot that we did specific essay writings that we would do in college and we would see in the future. I'd agree with that. Those really did.
I agree with what you guys. I think like I've learned how to. Obviously, I've learned a lot from this class, but most importantly, I've learned how to manage my time a little bit better, especially with our end of semester reading. I mean, I had a 300-page book that I had to get finished with. So I mean, I don't know, it was hard for me, but like this week I would read 100 pages and then another 100 pages and another 100 pages, and I mean, it was just easier for me. I just really learned how to manage my time.
That's one of the most helpful skills, especially when you're trying to balance all your other homework for all your other classes. It's like
Sports.
and sports and it's work and like everything.
Olivia, what about your biggest area of growth?
I feel like my biggest area of growth is speaking. Like from the first Socratic discussion, I feel like I really didn't talk very much. And I definitely read like everything off of my computer. I don't know. I felt like I was just kind of like scared to mess up, and I'm just like, if I mess up, it happens. It's human. And yeah, I feel like I can also back up like what I'm saying better, have more like evidence or reason to what I'm saying.
I also agree with Olivia because I used to hate speaking in front of people, but after these discussions, we've had quite a few of them in speech class. You have to get in front of people and talk to them. I've gotten more used to talking to people now.
I agree with Olivia and Devin. I'm going to kind of tie that into Nash's with his homework and like trying to get homework done and stuff like that. I really hated doing my homework in this class, and I would like rush through it and try to get it done. But I learned as I went on that I need to take my time, so I had a better quality on my homework. And with the Socratic discussion prep sheets, like I found it really fun to fill these out because I like putting my thoughts on this, and I liked finding stuff that improved my claim. So that was really fun.
The first quarter, I didn't even really talk in any sense because like I don't feel like my friends were there, so it's like I don't talk to people if I don't know them. It's like shy, but like in these, like, I feel comfortable to talk because like I know everyone in this class, so it's like they won't make fun of me if I say something stupid. So
Yeah.
And I feel like I like to say things. Like I feel like none of you guys are gonna judge my thoughts. Like I like that, and I think a lot of people, like I can see how a lot of people don't like to talk because they feel like people will judge their thoughts and what they think and their points of view. But I like how in this discussion we kind of all just bounce ideas, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe there is a person that thinks the same thing as me, and so I won't be as afraid to speak up and say something.
I agree with Charlotte. I mean, I like to debate. I like to debate a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's really fun. That's me. So that's where I find this fun. Is I mean, I kind of think of this as a debate. Because there's some people I agree with, and some people I don't agree with, and then I like to find common ground.
John?
Yes. I can't really, in this class, I can't really grow in one specific area. To me, it's all wrapped up into one thing. If you don't manage your time well, you're not going to get everything done, and then if you don't have anything done, you're not going to do well. And then specifically, like with your writings, if you don't get your outlines done, then you're not going to have all your information needed, and then you're going to do bad on that. You can't do well on one specific thing if you don't do well on the others as well.
I felt like this class got a little more ready for college than any other class.
Yeah. I definitely agree with John. I think that's 100% true. Because like my reading improved, so then I was able to analyze better, and I was able to pick out information, which improved my writing, and my writings were good, which improved just everything.
I feel like I really saw that on the literary analysis too.
Yes.
Like I was able to annotate everything and understand it, and then that made my outline a whole lot easier, which made it easier to do my writing.
I agree with John with what he said, and I've talked to like so many people who like really hated this class, and like I don't see how they hated this class. Honestly, I mean, this class has got me prepared for so many different things.
And it was also a huge adjustment from what we were used to
Yes.
last year.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
huge.
it was
I
good
mean,
for a change.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna help with U.S. history class coming up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next
Definitely.
I have
like, we did
already
everything.
taken U.S. history. And like that's another thing. Like I feel like your class's background has been very different than my class's background, whereas I had already completed research papers, argumentative essays, literary analyses. Like I had already done everything that we did in this class. So I think being able to see how I changed from last year to this year just based off of maturity and growing as like a person, I saw that my writing styles changed a lot due to the different atmosphere and the different like teaching techniques that we had to use to give our points or our claims. So I think that the biggest like thing that I grew in was just understanding American literature because I already had a basis in most of the things that we were taught in this class, whereas I learned more about different rhythms or different structures in different authors' poems or the creative writing more versus the actual like real life writing.
The poems were definitely a struggle for me.
Oh yeah.
Especially Emily Dickinson's, like they were so short, and I had like there were so many things that we were supposed to find in the poem. And like there are 10 words on this page. How did she do this? What?
Yeah, that was a difficult time for me. Dark period.
I actually liked the shorter poems better just because I feel like it's easier and almost better to get your point off in as few as words as possible because I feel like I've heard a lot of people speak and through various extracurricular activities. I have also been a speaker myself, so like knowing when the audience is like losing, like when you're losing their attention span, like you have to know to keep it short and keep it to the point so that they understand what's going on, but also keeping them hooked on your topic. So I thought that the short poems actually were some of my favorites, unlike yours, but I understand where you were confused or where you were like, how do I find all of these meanings in this 2 stanza poem. So
I'd rather read a 500-page book than read a poem.
500 is a little excessive.
That's true.
But yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree with Tori and Olivia. I mean, I don't like poetry. That's just me. I never have.
Yeah.
I just rather read
get
a book.
I like poetry. It's just hard to read for me. I'd rather read a book that somebody wrote about their thoughts and feelings, or listen to a song, not read a poem, something like that.
I agree. I'm the same way.
all right. So is there anything else that we didn't get to that someone wants to add in or discuss? No? All right. Well, then I think that's the end of our final Socratic discussion for English 3. Miss Harwick,